I stood at the kitchen counter on Boxing Day morning, watching the snow fall outside my Victoria townhouse window. The kettle whistled as I poured hot water over my Earl Grey tea bag. My daughter Claire and her husband Marcus had stayed overnight after our Christmas celebration, and my son David had just arrived with his wife Jennifer and their 2 teenagers. The living room still smelled of yesterday's turkey and mincemeat tarts. I'd spent 3 days preparing our traditional feast, just like I'd done for the past 42 years since immigrating to Canada from Yorkshire. Claire appeared in the doorway, her blonde hair still messy from sleep. She was 41 now, a successful immigration lawyer in Vancouver. Behind her, David shuffled in wearing his Maple Leafs hoodie, looking every bit his 38 years. "Morning, Mum," Claire said, kissing my cheek. "Sleep well?" "Like a log, dear. There's fresh bannock on the counter, your grandmother's recipe." David poured himself coffee and grabbed 3 pieces. "These are incredible, Mum. You should sell them." I smiled and reached for the stack of mail I'd left on the counter. "Oh, before I forget, did that letter from the retirement community arrive yet? The one about the deposit for my cottage at Sunrise Gardens?" The room went completely silent. Claire's teacup stopped halfway to her lips. David set down his coffee mug so carefully it didn't make a sound. I looked up from shuffling through the Rogers Bill and BC Hydro statement. "What's wrong?" Marcus cleared his throat from the living room. Jennifer suddenly became very interested in her phone. "Mum," Claire started, her lawyer voice coming out. "Measured. Careful. About that deposit." My stomach dropped. I'd saved that $78,000 for 6 years. Every birthday check from friends, every bit extra from my part-time job at the library after Dad passed, every penny from selling his vintage record collection. The cottage at Sunrise Gardens was my dream. A small place in the retirement community in Sidney, near the ocean, with a garden plot and a craft room. I'd already picked out which bedroom would be for guests when Claire and David visited. "What about it?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. David wouldn't meet my eyes. Claire set down her teacup. "We needed to borrow it." "Borrow it? From where?" "Your savings account," Marcus said quietly. "The joint one. Claire's name is on it, remember? From when your hip surgery happened 5 years ago and you needed help managing bills." I remembered. After Dad died and I had that bad fall, Claire had convinced me to add her as a joint account holder, just in case something happens, Mum. "So I can help you." "How much did you borrow?" Another silence. "All of it," Claire finally said. The teacup in my hand started shaking. I set it down. "All $78,000? We were going to tell you, Mum, but there was never a good time. And then Christmas came and—" "Tell me what, exactly? Where did my retirement money go?" David stood up, his face flushed. "Amber needed it more than you." Amber, David's 25-year-old daughter from his first marriage. My granddaughter, yes, but I'd only met her twice since David's bitter divorce 12 years ago. Her mother had moved to Toronto and made visits difficult. Amber needed $78,000. "She's getting married," Jennifer jumped in, her voice defensive. "In Banff, at the Fairmont. It's her dream wedding, and Trevor's family is very well off, and she couldn't look cheap in front of them." I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching this conversation happen to someone else. "So you took my retirement savings. For a wedding?" "She only gets married once, Mum," David said. "You can wait another year or 2 for the retirement place. You're healthy. You don't need to move yet." I'm 67 years old. I've been on the waiting list for 3 years. The cottage came available, and I have until January 15th to submit the deposit, or they give it to the next person. That's in 3 weeks. Claire looked at her manicured nails. "Amber's wedding is in 2 weeks. The final vendor payments are due. We've already committed." "Without asking me?" "We knew you'd say no," David said. "You've always been weird about money. Dad used to say you counted every nickel twice." That stung. My husband William and I had been careful with money because we'd come to Canada with nothing but 2 suitcases and a dream. We'd worked 3 jobs between us to put these 2 children through university without debt. I'd sewn Claire's prom dress by hand and refinished David's first car from a junkyard find. And yes, when William got sick, I'd learned to stretch every dollar even further because cancer treatment medications cost a fortune even with provincial coverage. "Amber's already sent out the invitations," Jennifer continued. 200 guests. The photographer flew in from New York. The flowers alone are $18,000, ice sculptures, a live band, and the dress, oh, Margaret, you should see the dress. Vera Wang, imported from Paris. With my retirement money. With family money, David corrected. Amber's family too. She's your granddaughter. I've met her twice in 12 years because her mother wouldn't allow visits, and you didn't fight for them. That's not fair, Mum. I picked up the stack of mail again. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Something cold and clear was settling in my chest. When were you planning to tell me? After the wedding, Claire admitted. We thought if you saw how beautiful it was, how happy Amber was, you'd understand, and we were going to help you get the money back. Eventually, I've got a big case coming up, Claire said. Corporate merger. The fee will be substantial. And David's up for promotion at the engineering firm. So in maybe a year, you'll start paying me back? Well, it'll take time, David hedged. The wedding cost more than we expected. We had to put $30,000 on credit cards, and Amber and Trevor need help with their down payment on a condo. She can't start married life in a rental, Mum. What would Trevor's parents think? I looked at my 2 children. My babies. The ones I'd sat up with through colic and croup, driven to hockey practice and dance recitals, helped through heartbreaks and university exams, supported through job losses and divorces. I see, I said quietly. Claire must have heard something in my voice because she reached for my hand. Mum, don't be like this. Family helps family. That's what you always taught us. Remember when you paid for my law school textbooks? And when you gave David the down payment for his first house? I gave those. I didn't steal them from your retirement savings. It's not stealing when— Get out. Everyone froze. Mum? David said uncertainly. Get out of my house. All of you. Now. You can't be serious, Jennifer said. It's Boxing Day. We were going to have leftovers and watch the juniors. I am completely serious. Take your things and leave. Claire's lawyer mask cracked. Mum, please. Let's talk about this like adults. Adults? You want to talk like adults? Adults ask before taking $78,000. Adults consider that maybe their mother's retirement security is more important than ice sculptures and Vera Wang dresses. Adults don't steal from their parents and plan to confess later, after the money's spent, and can't be returned. We were going to pay you back, David shouted. When? When I'm 80 and don't need a retirement cottage because I'll be in a nursing home? Get out. Now. They left. Claire crying, Marcus trying to apologize, David angry and slamming doors, Jennifer muttering about me being unreasonable. The teenagers looked horrified but said nothing. When the house was empty, I sat in William's old armchair and stared at nothing for an hour. Then I made a phone call to my old friend Janet from the library. She'd retired from 30 years as a paralegal and still did consulting work. Janet, I need to know my legal options for unauthorized withdrawal from a joint account. 2 hours later, I had my answer. Because Claire was a joint account holder, technically she had legal access to the money. But Janet had another suggestion. You still have the documentation showing that money was specifically earmarked for your retirement, right? The letters from Sunrise Gardens, your savings plan, everything? I did. I'd kept meticulous records, just like William taught me. And Claire's a member of the Law Society of British Columbia? Yes. There might be an ethical issue here. Lawyers are held to higher standards about fiduciary responsibility, even in personal matters. I'm not saying file a complaint, Margaret. But maybe the possibility of one might motivate faster repayment. I thanked Janet and sat with that information. Then I called my bank and removed Claire from the joint account. They said because there was no money in it anyway, it was a simple process. I opened a new account at a different bank entirely. Next, I called Sunrise Gardens. I need to speak to someone about my cottage deposit situation. The administrator, a kind woman named Patricia, listened to my story. Oh, Mrs. Foster, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, we do have other people on the waiting list, but let me see what I can do. Can I call you back? She called back within an hour. Mrs. Foster, I spoke with our director. We can extend your deadline to March 1st. That gives you 6 more weeks. It's the best we can do. The board has rules. I thanked her and hung up. 6 weeks to somehow get $78,000. That evening, I made a list of everything I owned. The townhouse was paid off, worth about $650,000 in Victoria's market. William's life insurance had paid off the mortgage 10 years ago. I had his wedding ring, my wedding ring, my mother's engagement ring from England, some savings bonds, an old RRSP worth about $12,000. I could sell the house, downsize to a rental, use the equity for the retirement cottage deposit, and live frugally on my pension and old age security. But this was my home. William and I had bought it 35 years ago. Our children grew up here. I'd painted every wall, planted every rose bush, refinished every cabinet. I'd held William's hand in our bedroom as he died, looking out at the garden he loved. I sat down and did what I always did when I needed to think clearly. I made tea and got out my journal. I wrote for 3 hours. The next morning, I called David. I need Amber's phone number. Why? I'd like to speak to my granddaughter. He gave it to me, suspicion evident in his voice. Amber answered on the third ring. Hello, Amber, this is your grandmother Margaret. We met when you were 13 and again at your high school graduation. A pause. Oh, hi, Grandma. I understand congratulations are in order. You're getting married. Yeah, in 2 weeks. It's going to be amazing. I'm sure it will be. Banff is beautiful in winter. The Fairmont is a stunning venue. You know about that? I do. Your father told me. He mentioned the flowers and the Vera Wang dress and the photographer from New York. She giggled. It's kind of over the top, but Trevor's parents insisted. They're paying for half. And your father and Aunt Claire paid for the other half? Yeah. It's so generous of them. I know it was a lot of money, but Dad said family is supposed to help with weddings. That's traditional, right? Yes, it is. Amber, can I ask you a question? Sure. Did your father tell you where that money came from? Silence. What do you mean? The money he gave you for the wedding. Did he tell you it came from my retirement savings? Money I'd been saving for 6 years to move into a retirement cottage? The silence stretched longer this time. He said it was from his savings. No, dear. It was from mine, $78,000, all of it, which means I can't afford the deposit for my retirement home now. They'll give my cottage to someone else. I didn't know. He didn't tell me that. I didn't think he had. Amber, I'm not calling to make you feel guilty. You didn't do anything wrong, but I want you to know where the money came from, and I want you to know that your father and aunt took it without asking me, knowing it would mean I'd lose my retirement plan. Grandma, I'm so sorry. I wouldn't have if I'd known. I know, sweetheart. Enjoy your wedding. I hope it's everything you've dreamed of. I hung up before she could respond. 20 minutes later, David called. What did you say to Amber? She's hysterical. She wants to cancel the wedding. I told her the truth. That you stole my retirement money to pay for her wedding without telling her where it came from. You had no right. I had every right. She's an adult getting married. She deserves to know that her dream wedding cost her grandmother her retirement security. You're going to ruin her wedding! No, David. You did that when you stole from me to pay for it. Now she has to live with that knowledge. Every time she looks at her wedding photos, she'll know what they cost. He hung up on me. Claire called 10 minutes later. Mom, this is getting out of hand. Amber's talking about postponing the wedding. Do you know how much money we'll lose in vendor cancellation fees? Not my problem. Don't be stubborn. We said we'll pay you back. When? Claire, give me a specific date and a payment plan. Silence. That's what I thought. You took my money with no actual plan to return it. You just hoped I'd get over it eventually. Mum, I'm a lawyer. I can't have family members making complaints to the Law Society. It would destroy my career. Then you shouldn't have stolen from your mother. It wasn't stealing. Yes, Claire, it was. You had legal access to that account for emergencies, my hip surgery, a medical crisis, not to fund your niece's destination wedding without my knowledge or consent. And you know that, which is why you didn't ask first. She hung up too. I watered my plants and made lunch. Tomato soup and a cheese toastie, just like my mum used to make back in Yorkshire. That afternoon, Jennifer showed up at my door. Margaret, we need to talk. I let her in but didn't offer tea. You're being unreasonable, she said, sitting on my couch without being invited. Amber is devastated. She's your granddaughter, whom I've met twice. That's not her fault. Her mother made it difficult. Yes. And David didn't fight for visitation because it was easier not to, but now suddenly she's family when you need money. She is family. Jennifer, let me ask you something. If this were your mother's retirement money, would you have taken it without asking for Amber's wedding? She hesitated. That's different. How? My mother needs her retirement money. She's living on a fixed income. I'm living on a pension and old age security. I worked part-time at the library until last year when my arthritis got too bad. That retirement cottage has a craft room where I could make quilts for charity. It has a garden where I could grow vegetables. It has a community where I wouldn't be alone when my children apparently don't visit me anyway. But none of that matters to you because you wanted Amber to look impressive in front of Trevor's wealthy parents. You could get the money back. You have equity in this house. I should sell my home, the home where I raised my children and cared for my dying husband, to replace the retirement money you stole from me, so you don't have to feel bad about stealing it? When she didn't answer, I stood up. Please leave. After she left, I sat down and made another list. This one was different. I called a real estate agent. I'd like to know the rental value of a 3-bedroom townhouse in James Bay. Then I called a different agent. I'd like to know about purchasing a small cottage or rancher in Sidney or the surrounding area. Something modest, under $400,000. By evening, I had a plan. The townhouse would rent for $3,200 a month. After property management fees and maintenance reserves, I'd clear about $2,600. Combined with my pension and OAS, I'd have enough to live on. I could buy a small cottage outright in Sidney for $385,000, something smaller than the retirement community cottage, but mine completely. No monthly fees, no waiting lists. I wouldn't have the craft room or the organized activities or the community center, but I'd have my independence. And I'd have it without selling the home William and I built together. I called Patricia at Sunrise Gardens. I'm sorry, but I need to withdraw my application. I won't be able to make the deposit. She sounded genuinely sad. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Foster. I was really hoping we could work something out. Me too, but life had other plans. That evening, I made one more call, to Amber. Grandma? Hello, sweetheart. I wanted you to know that I've made other arrangements for my retirement. You don't need to worry about canceling your wedding on my account. Are you sure? Because I talked to Trevor and his parents, and they said they could cover more of the costs. We could pay your dad and Aunt Claire back, and then they could pay you back. That's very kind, but no, what's done is done. I hope you have a beautiful wedding, Amber. I truly do. Will you come? To the wedding? I'd really like you to be there, and I want to get to know you better. I'm sorry we haven't been close. That's on me too. I felt my eyes sting. That's very sweet of you. Let me think about it. After I hung up, I cried for the first time since Boxing Day morning. Not from anger anymore, from grief, from the realization that my children had looked at my lifetime of savings, my carefully built retirement security, and seen it as available funds for their purposes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 2 a.m. and opened my laptop. I started writing an email to David and Claire, typing out everything I wanted to say. How betrayed I felt, how they'd chosen a wedding over my security, how they'd taught their children that elderly parents were banks to be raided without consequence. I typed for an hour, then I deleted it all. Instead, I wrote a single sentence to each of them. I will not be attending Amber's wedding. I wish her happiness. I sent it and went to bed. The next week passed in a strange fog. I met with real estate agents, toured small cottages in Sidney, made spreadsheets of rental income versus expenses. I called around about property management companies. I started packing away William's remaining belongings that I'd kept in the spare room. His golf clubs, his collection of war history books, his favorite coffee mug that I could never bring myself to use. Claire came by on Friday. She let herself in with her key, which I'd forgotten to ask for back. Mum, we need to talk. I asked you to leave. This has gone far enough. You're planning to rent out your house? Your home? How did you know that? I saw the property manager's business card on your counter. Mum, this is insane. You can't move because of this. I'm moving because I can't afford to retire where I planned, because my savings are gone. We'll pay you back. I've already talked to the bank about a line of credit. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, I don't trust you to pay me back, Claire. You've shown me that you see my money as available to you when you want it. Even if you pay this back in 5 or 10 years, what's to stop you from taking it again the next time David's kids need something? That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair. I'm 67 years old, and I'm having to restructure my entire retirement plan because my children stole from me. We didn't steal. Yes, you did. I heard my voice rise, something that never happened. You took money that didn't belong to you, that you knew was meant for a specific purpose, without asking, without intending to pay it back in any realistic time frame, and you did it because you thought I'd just accept it eventually. That's stealing, Claire. The fact that you had legal access doesn't make it ethical, and you know that, or you wouldn't have hidden it from me until after the money was spent. She was crying now. I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't give me back 6 years of saving. Sorry doesn't get me that cottage at Sunrise Gardens. Sorry doesn't undo the lesson you've taught me, which is that I can't trust my own children with my financial security. Please don't rent the house. Please. This is our home, where David and I grew up. It's my home. You grew up here, but you both have your own homes now. This is mine, and I'll do what I need to with it to secure my retirement since I can't count on the money I saved. She left in tears. David didn't come by. He sent a text. Hope you're happy ruining Amber's wedding. I didn't respond. The weekend before the wedding, Janet called. Margaret, I've been thinking about your situation. Have you considered a reverse mortgage on the townhouse instead of renting it out? I looked into it. The fees are very high, and I'd be eating into my equity. True. But another option might be to stay in the house and rent out the 2 spare bedrooms. With Victoria's rental market, you could get $900 each. That's $1,800 a month. Combined with your pension, you'd be comfortable. I'd never considered that. Strangers in William's house? In the bedrooms where my children grew up? But then again, my children had made it clear that this house was my asset, not their heritage. They'd stolen my retirement savings without a second thought for preserving family bonds. I'll think about it, I told Janet. On the day of Amber's wedding, I woke up early. The sun was streaming through my bedroom window, hitting the photo on my dresser. William and me, on our 25th anniversary, standing in Butchart Gardens. We'd been so happy, so sure we were building something lasting. I got dressed and made tea. Then I sat down and wrote Amber a letter. Dear Amber, it began. Today is your wedding day, and even though I won't be there, I'm thinking of you. I hope your marriage brings you all the joy that mine brought me. Your grandfather and I had 43 wonderful years together before cancer took him from me. We built a life based on trust and mutual respect and careful planning for our future together. I want you to know that I don't blame you for what happened with the wedding money. You didn't know where it came from, and that's not your fault. But I hope you'll remember this as you start your marriage. Money matters because it represents security and choices and freedom. When someone takes your security without asking, even family, especially family, they're telling you that your needs don't matter as much as their wants. Your father and aunt made a choice to prioritize your wedding over my retirement. That was their choice to make, but they don't get to make it without consequences. Those consequences are mine to decide, not theirs. I wish you every happiness, my dear. I hope someday we can have the relationship we should have had all along. But that will have to wait until your father understands what he did wrong, and I'm not sure he ever will. Love always, your grandmother Margaret. I put the letter in an envelope, addressed it to Amber in Toronto, where she and Trevor were planning to live, and walked to the post box on the corner. When I got back, there was a message on my answering machine. Mrs. Foster, this is Patricia from Sunrise Gardens. I have unusual news. The couple who was next on our waiting list just withdrew their application. They've decided to move to Ontario to be near their son instead, which means your cottage is available again if you can make the deposit by March 1st. That's 4 weeks away. I know it's probably not possible given your situation, but I wanted you to know. You were so excited about that cottage, and I hate that you're losing it. Please call me if circumstances change. I sat down hard in William's chair. 4 weeks. I called my real estate agent. If I listed the townhouse today, how quickly could we close? In this market? 3 weeks if we get a cash buyer, maybe 4. List it. Are you sure? I looked around the living room, at the photos of Claire and David growing up, at the bookshelf William built, at the garden visible through the window. I'm sure. The house went on the market that Monday. We had 6 showings the first day. Multiple offers came in by Wednesday. A young couple from Toronto, moving to Victoria for work, cash buyers, willing to close in 3 weeks. I accepted their offer. $680,000. After paying the agent fees and legal costs, I'd walk away with about $645,000. More than enough for the Sunrise Gardens deposit and to furnish my cottage. Enough to set aside for emergencies. Enough to finally feel secure. Claire found out when she drove by and saw the sold sign. She called immediately. You sold the house? Yes. Without telling us? It's my house, Claire. Where are you going to live? I got my cottage at Sunrise Gardens. The couple ahead of me withdrew their application. A long pause. So you're still moving to the retirement community? Yes. You could have kept the house, Mum. If you'd just waited, we would have paid you back. No, you wouldn't have. Not really. Not in any meaningful time frame. And I'm 67 years old. I don't have years to wait while you get around to maybe paying me back. I need security now. We're your children. And you stole from me. I'm done pretending that didn't happen or that it's okay, because we're family. Family means I fed you and clothed you, and put you through university. Family means I sat with you through every heartbreak and celebrated every success. Family does not mean you get to raid my retirement fund without consequences. We'll never forgive you for selling our childhood home. Then I guess we're even, because I'm not sure I'll ever forgive you for stealing my retirement savings. The difference is, I'm the one who actually lost something irreplaceable. I hung up. The next 3 weeks were a blur of packing and paperwork and movers. I kept what would fit in the cottage. I donated most of the furniture to a charity that helped newcomers to Canada set up their first homes. How fitting, I thought, since William and I had been newcomers once. I sold William's record collection to a vintage shop. I kept only his wedding ring and his favorite sweater. The young couple who bought the house seemed lovely. They had a 2-year-old daughter and another baby on the way. She cried when she saw the garden. "It's perfect," she said. "Our daughter will love playing out there." Good, I thought. Better this house have life in it again. David and Jennifer didn't help me move. Neither did Claire and Marcus. Janet came, and some friends from the library, and my book club ladies. We packed up 40 years of memories in boxes and moved them into storage or the donation truck or my new cottage. On moving day, I stood in the empty living room one last time. I could almost see William sitting in his chair, reading the newspaper. I could hear Claire practicing violin in the corner. I could smell David's hockey equipment drying by the door. But those people were gone. William to cancer. My children to their own lives, where I was apparently just a bank account with inconvenient feelings attached. I locked the door and left the keys on the counter for the new owners. Then I drove to Sidney, to my little cottage at Sunrise Gardens, Unit 47, with a view of the courtyard garden and just enough space for me. It was small, much smaller than the townhouse. There was no craft room, but there was a sunroom I could use. There was no big garden, but I had a patio and access to the community garden plots. There were no bedrooms for visiting grandchildren, but there was a pull-out couch. It was enough. More than enough. I'd paid for it with money that was mine, earned by my work, secured by my planning. No one could take it from me. No one had a claim on it. I was, for the first time in 6 weeks, at peace. That night, I sat in my new sunroom and watched the sunset. My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. "Grandma, I got your letter. Thank you. The wedding was beautiful, but I couldn't stop thinking about what it cost you. Trevor and I are going to pay you back. His parents are helping us. We're sending $500 a month until it's paid back. It'll take 13 years, but we're going to do it. You didn't deserve what Dad and Aunt Claire did. I'm so sorry. Can I come visit you sometime? I want to know you better. I want to know about Grandpa William and about England and about the life you built. Love, Amber." I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back, "Dear Amber, you don't need to pay me back. That money was taken without your knowledge, and you bear no responsibility for it. But I would love for you to visit. I'll tell you all about your grandfather. He would have been so proud to see you married. Come anytime. Love, Grandma." She responded immediately, "We're paying you back anyway. It's not about responsibility. It's about doing what's right. Trevor says his parents did the same thing for his grandparents once. It's what family does. See you soon." I sat there with tears running down my face, but this time they weren't tears of anger or grief. They were tears of hope. Maybe family wasn't David and Claire, who'd seen my security as their resource to redistribute. Maybe family was Amber, who barely knew me but understood that taking someone's retirement savings was wrong. Maybe family was Janet and my book club ladies who'd helped me pack. Maybe family was choosing who I gave my time and trust to, instead of being obligated by blood alone. I made a cup of tea, Earl Grey, like always, and sat watching the lights come on in the other cottages around the courtyard. My new neighbors, my new community, my new life. The next morning, I woke up in my cottage and felt something I hadn't felt since Boxing Day. Safe.